This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love. Can buy me love.
And we're back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, joined by Jim Doyle in the studio today, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. And on Boomer Life today, we're talking about how a well-thought-out plan for your financial future is an integral part of building the life that you want for yourself and for your family. So, Jim, before the break, we were actually speaking on the dynamics of family-owned businesses and some of the unique challenges involved, as well as the changing face of retirement, with a number of retirees exploring opening their own businesses. And if I've been paying attention before opening your wallet, make sure that your decision isn't going to come back to hurt you. But how do we do that? It's a reality for most of us that we worry about money. The question is, why do we let worry about money drive so much of our thinking and decision making?
In my experience, I think it comes from trying to control things that are outside of our control. For instance, we worry about whether we'll have enough to retire or help the kids out.
So we probably feel that we're trying to do everything we can, yet perhaps the one thing we're not doing is actually working with an advisor.
Find the right person who's going to take an interest in what you're doing and why. Interview a couple of advisors. Get a sense of how they work, how they help you make decisions, what their communication and contact strategies are going to look like. Find somebody who focuses on the things that keep you up at night.
Well, isn't that why we hire advisors? So the advisor can shoulder some of the worry about the things that keep us up from realizing our goals, having them come up with strategies or action plans that are actually going to protect us?
Could I suggest that you treat worry as a sign something's out of balance? When we understand your values, we can help weigh whether your worry is warranted or not, and offer suggestions on ways to eliminate certain risks.
I think one of the biggest obstacles is that we don't have the knowledge we want to make the decisions that we need to make.
The problem isn't finding solutions. You can go to the internet and find dozens of solutions. The difficulty comes from having the knowledge to implement the right strategies for your situation. Another key element is understanding how we make our financial decisions. It's important for us to understand the why as we help to reduce the worry about your financial choices.
And also, if I have been listening over past shows, you always reminded us to leave the emotion out of it. So I see it's very important to understand all of the hows and the whys without being emotional about it.
We risk repeating history if we don't understand how and why we make our investment decisions. Often anxiety comes from a shortfall in knowledge or not doing everything we can to in our own situation, like sticking with a budget or setting and meeting goals. Worry doesn't need to play a lead role in your financial decisions.
It's also about finding the right people to help you through this. You want someone who's invested in your situation, someone who's invested in you or me, someone who's going to help take the time and maybe take on some of the hard work as well.
Hard work is just that, hard work. And changing habits doesn't come easy. Instead of taking on all the hard work yourself, let your advisor do some of the heavy lifting.
Well, that sounds pretty simple, and yet I think every investor has wrestled with emotion at some point when it comes to investment decisions.
They say people are of two minds. Left brain, analytical, and the right brain, emotional. As an advisor, I have to deal with both because you have to call people to action. That part comes from the right brain. It's not enough to know something. You need to take action to create change.
So what steps can we take to discover our true level of risk tolerance?
When it comes to risk, it's important to understand that you have a lot more choices than you might think. You can try to avoid risk, reduce it, accept it, or transfer it to something or someone else.
So would it be fair to say that wealthier investors comfortably understand risk and volatility and have safeguards in place?
I think this is one of those myths. Just because people have money doesn't mean that they're always comfortable with their investment knowledge or understand their investments. In an effort to limit volatility, people unintentionally limit risk, removing the chance on a long-term basis for their investments to keep up with inflation. Without this, people could experience a gradual reduction in their standard of living. That's not very much fun.
So how do you help guide these types of conversations in your practice?
I think the real problem still comes from people not understanding the differences between risk and volatility. One thing I do in my practice is help investors understand risk better, what risk is, what it means to them, and what their options are. I'm absolutely convinced that if people understood risk better, that they might have the tools to make better choices.
So what types of questions might you ask me to determine my level of risk?
Well, I want to know about the things that make you anxious, okay? What have you done in the past? How's that worked out for you? How's that made you feel? Those are key in terms of how you make your decisions.
So when it comes to managing investment emotions, why is it better to work with an advisor rather than go it alone?
I think one of the reasons we're often challenged when we measure success is that when we talk about investment goals and the importance of achieving them, we focus on the dollars, okay, rather than how close or how far we are from achieving the goal. We're not emotionally connected to our goal. So let me give you an example. If I say $10,000, what emotion does that bring to your mind? But if I talk about taking a $10,000 vacation and we start talking about what your room is going to look like, what you expect your view out of your room to look like, maybe the temperature or the weather is going to be, the foods and the wines and the company of good friends, now we're emotionally connected. The better advisors help you stay emotionally connected in both good times and bad.
I think you need an advisor who can explain how they'll help you stay invested in strategies, even when your portfolios seem to be suffering market dips. And because I've heard many investment advisors talk about taking a conservative approach. What does that mean for you? Every advisor can't be offering the same advice, can they?
When we talk about managing your money, I want to know what it means to you to be conservative with your money. Conservative can mean different things to different people, depending on your life experiences. In my practice, the goal might be to help you live comfortably today and protect your legacy for the future. The way you go about it needs to be tailored to reflect each individual investor's needs and understanding.
So there's no one-size-fits-all conservative approach.
I think there's a lot of questions that should be asked to get a real handle on what conservative approach means to clients. Questions like, are you managing for growth? Are you managing for income? Should have very different investment income recommendations presented.
So I think one of the challenges that people face is they're simply not comfortable with their financial knowledge. So what do you do to address this in your practice?
As we mentioned before, I think sometimes we wrestle with information and knowledge, and sometimes they're just not the same thing. There's a lot of information out there, and occasionally misinformation. And this is where your clients really need our help. When it comes to sorting out what information is relevant to their situation and how to best implement their plan. I think the real value can come from educating clients and communicating clearly and precisely, addressing the risk and setting reasonable expectations from the start. Imagine the outcome if communication looked like this. These are the things you need to focus on and pay attention to. These are the things you should ignore and not pay attention to.
Jim, I really appreciate how you address the idea that we work with an advisor to help simplify what we need to focus on and the things we should ignore. So when it comes to becoming money smart, where would you suggest we start?
First thing I want to say, it's never too late to start. For some, this is going to be a little bit unsettling. But if you want to feel confident in your financial decision making and take control of your financial choices, you need to get out of your comfort zone. Don't be embarrassed and ask lots of questions. Consider working with a financial planner who's interested in taking the time to help you understand and explain things. Regaining financial independence means taking charge of your financial future. You may not have all the tools today, but with my help, we can help you change that. If you want things to be different, it's as simple as making a phone call to get started.
It sounds like it's really important to understand that all of the best planning in the world gets lost if it's not implemented.
Joanne, working with an advisor can add as much as 3% to your long-term investment returns.
Now you got our attention.
It's the money, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's all about the money.
The other challenge, I think, is you're going to diminish returns if you don't stick with your plan. Okay? So that's why it's important to look at the things that steer financial choices.
Well, we've learned a lot today, Jim, in our conversation, and we've covered a lot of ground from retirement and widowhood to trusting an advisor with some highly personal issues like working out problems within a family business or even losing a spouse. And to build that relationship with your money and your investments, you must build that relationship with your advisor.
I think you've hit it right on the head, if I could. Understanding your relationship with money can provide a stronger benefit when working with your advisor. Advised clients build more wealth. And it's not enough to know something. You need to do something. Take action. I also think people are uncomfortable with change. If you're not where you want to be financially, ask how we might help. I'm going to suggest this again. Remember the 3 T's.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Time to do the research and anticipate the tax consequences. Technique, knowing where you're going, what you're doing, and having the knowledge. And, of course, temperament, emotional control.
Thanks for your contributions today, Jim. It's a great show. You're listening to Boomer Life on CIAL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Today, we've been speaking with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group, on helping people redefine what financial advice means to regain confidence in their financial futures. Well, Jim, you keep telling us it can be as simple as starting with a phone call. So to find out how Jim Doyle might help improve your financial situation, call him. Here's his number, 604-682-5431. Thanks for joining us today. This is Boomer Life on CIAL 650.